Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics. And my friend Preston, who runs that company, has a Kickstarter going on with Palace of the Golden Princess, which is based on a Dungeons and Dragons game of all things from the 70s. And it's a really cool, trippy book, and definitely strong female characters. A lot of stuff's going on, a lot of fantasies going on. And if you're really into that stuff and you like that and you like strong female characters, it's a good book for you. And it's just a beautiful book the way it is illustrated and drawn, as well as it's just a fun story. And he has some seriously cool covers, and a bunch of them are already sold out. So you have to act quickly because the whole thing might actually be sold out relatively soon the way it's going. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator David Whalen. So welcome back.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, anytime. But you got a lot going on. You got a lot going on, and I kind of want to catch everybody up because some people know who you are, and we've done this enough times that everybody should have an idea, or they could go backwards. But you obviously run Correct-Handed Comics, and so what is the basic premise of that, without diving too deep into it, just so everybody kind of gets a semblance of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, just I've always, been somebody who loves to create and loves to tell stories and draw and write and do all those things. And I had so many stories in my brain, including my ongoing series, The Offspring, that I just put out issue 28 for. So it really is just, my publishing company that I try my hardest to be able to put out good, solid books, fun books, some one-shots, graphic novels, my ongoing series, 4-issue miniseries, just fun stories that I've wanted to tell for a long time, and finally am getting the chance to.
Yeah, no. Let's talk a little bit about this because it's an interesting company. Because you have your main title, The Offspring, but then you also have done some mini series. I think you also did a just self-contained graphic novel as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Two of
And
them.
then you've done a bunch of what would you say?
Two of them.
Oh yeah, there we go. But I'm speaking general for a reason because I don't remember everything. I'd rather be general. This way I can't be wrong. It's kind of like saying the sun is going to come out eventually. But I digress. But what is that like? Because I think it's interesting when companies do, and comic companies say, "Hey, we have our flagship products, but then we also take a step off the beaten path and do a one shot here and a one shot there, or do like a 2-part series." Because I think it sometimes gets stale if you're just doing the same thing and pumping it out every single month or every single quarter.
Yeah.
And then what happens if somebody doesn't like your fucking book, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. It's the challenge is always in, I used to say, I still do say that I don't divide my time, I multiply it. So having the core book of The Offspring is the driving force, the flagship title of the company. But I've always wanted to make sure that I gave myself time and found time to be able to create in other genres with other characters and other stories. I initially started my one-shot series, which is a 24-page black and white one-shot books where each one-shot title is a different character, different story. I initially started that because I understood that an ongoing series for an independent creator is sometimes a tough pill for some people to swallow because they never really know if they're going to get the end of the book. They never know how much, but until the creator runs out of money, or the creator finds something else to do, or the creator just can't do it for whatever reason. So I really created my one-shot series as a bridge to be able to show people my style, whether it's my writing style or my drawing style, and the kind of characters and kind of stories that are a little bit quirky, a little bit offbeat. Sometimes they're a little bit more scary. Sometimes they're a little bit more funny. But those different genres of stories, for people to be able to pick those up and be able to get an idea of what it is I was doing. And hopefully, like I said, be a bridge to be able to, I liked Will Aliens Do My Homework. I liked Shady Lady. I liked I Won't Stop. I liked whatever other one shot it was. So let me give the first 4 issues of the Offspring a shot, and hopefully they stick around for the next issues after that. My plan with the Offspring is to go 50 issues. And like I just said, I just put out issue 28, so I'm more than halfway there. Issue 27.
We're gonna talk about all of this.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about all this, but I do want to talk about actually one-shot stuff, because my favorite stuff in comics was Action Comics, and they had like an 8-page backup, and it had nothing to do, and it was just a Superman story.
Yeah,
and it was fun. So, like, for instance, I forget, like you had like Iron something, and that was fun for 8 pages. And then you have some other stuff in there where maybe you have Jimmy Olsen just doing some reporting, trying to figure out who Superman is and who his identity is, and that's 8 pages of fun. Or you have, they did Superman was the president of the United States, and so he's defusing a nuke bomb, and then he has to make it into the press conference, and he's cutting it pretty close. But those stories were just simple, and it's kind of like, cool. If you don't like the 8 pages, you can move on to the next one. And I think that's a real interesting issue right now in comics, is that I think people are missing that, you know, doing an ongoing series may or may not be the answer. And it's also, I don't know if it's also even just planning, because I'm sure you've read ongoing series and you're like, well, issues 9 to 14 were really bad. They were really bad. I mean, I don't know. Did you read most of The Walking Dead by any chance? Just curiosity.
I read most of it, and then I'm sure like a lot of people kind of went, oh, okay, I got it. Let's refresh here. Let's do something different. But I've read most of it.
I mean, there's a good chunk where I would say the first, 5 volumes, which is the first 50, are great.
Yeah.
Then after the prison, there's still some good stuff in there, but then there's a good chunk from like issue 130 to like issue 145. Like, we've beaten the horse, then we revived the horse, then we killed it again, then we found a new horse, and then we did it again. In 15 issues, nothing happened. And I'm like, this is a year and a half of my money, and nothing happened. And I was writing about it. And like, that's the problem that I think happens with ongoing series. And I think one shots, great. You're 24 pages or 48 pages and you're done.
Yeah. It's definitely tough. It's not, as an indie creator, it's definitely not trying to put together 4 issues of Superman a month. You know what I mean? Action Superman and Man of Steel, or whatever the titles are now that they have. So it's definitely the key for, at least what I've found, is to make sure whatever your story is, tell that story and tell it in the amount of issues that you need, and not try to drag it out for whatever reason to make money or to, whatever it is. So when I chose 50 issues, it's because I know exactly what's going to happen in all 50 issues. I've got the story. I have exactly what the characters are doing. I have their arcs. I have their motivations. I have their drive. I have the jokes. I have everything. I have the action sequences. I have the bad guys are ready to go. I know exactly what's going to happen. So it's, for me, I completely understand the burnout aspect of it. But my hope is, because I'm telling a complete story inside of smaller stories with these characters, that doesn't happen with The Offspring. I think that for me, I even had some extra stories that I kind of put to the side with these characters that I wanted to tell, because I wanted to stick between that, issue 1 through issue 50. And if I get to issue 50 and I find that people are still clamoring, I've got a couple 4-issue miniseries that I could do with The Offspring inside of the 50 issues that I've already created. So there definitely is that worry of am I kind of, did I go off the rails with some of these stories? But I don't feel for The Offspring at all. I don't feel that way at all. I feel that the 50 issues is solid characterization, solid motivation, solid storytelling, and solid bad guys to be able to keep people invested in.
Let's actually talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, because I find it interesting, right? Because I view, and I've read pieces of it, I haven't read the whole thing, but I find the first 12 issues to be very different than the 12 issues that proceeded after. And it's an interesting book, because we enter this book, and I'm going to be honest, I hate critiquing people's work like while they're in front of me, but like that first 12 issue arc is very different because they start time jumping outside of all this.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird book because it's
Mm-hmm.
almost a whole different series in issue 13.
It is. That was my one of my goals with the series, to be able to jump genres, because it does start very much as a mystery thriller, drama.
Kind of surrounding a school, kind of
Yeah.
surrounding a
Yeah.
town, kind of surrounding,
And as it builds up, the crazy builds up. The crazy starts to build up to where it does. And like I said, I tried to make it not too jarring, because in season 2, right in the middle of season 2, there's a time jump into the American Civil War. So while they're doing very grounded, like gritty, there's monsters and there's craziness, but it's still kind of grounded in reality on some level. Halfway through season 2, I try to introduce that time jump, the time travel aspect of it. And now in season 3, at the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 3, we're well into continuing to time travel further back. And the thing I love about it is thinking over it over the last decade about the justification. You know what I mean? Not just for me to be able to draw cool stuff, but the justification of it. For me, I think starting in that more drama, thriller aspect of it, and just dialing up the crazy and dialing up the craziness of it. By the time we get to the end of season 3, with the time travel stuff, I think there's a really good payoff for why the time travel stuff started to happen in this universe.
Let's get into some of this, because this is also interesting. So obviously, I've had conversations with Ed Davis, who does The Immoral Error. And I think he also wants to do like 50 or 100 issues. And he's got a lot of content. He has a good idea where it's going, where they're underground and now they're out in the world trying to find death. Basically restoring death. It's an interesting concept. But it's also interesting because when you start going and saying, I want to do 50 issues, you have to have a real understanding.
Right.
And you also have to introduce components in there that actually keep people fresh. I mean, I use Scott Snyder when he did 50 issues of Batman. 50 issues of Batman by DC, I'm trying to figure out I'm really bad at math. It's about 4 years. It's about 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of content, though. And so what is this like, too? Because you have to throw some crazy stuff into your book, because you can't, Walking Dead it. And you can't have 15 issues of just repetitiveness, and you need to give people something. And then you also have to, I guess, adjust to some degree on what the market is telling you too. And so what is that like? Because it's so tricky.
Yeah. Like I said, when I first came up with the concept, because I'm such a lover of so many genres, I wanted to be able to have these characters be able to weave in and out of those different genres of like thriller, sci-fi, mystery, horror, and to be able to have that world kind of ebb and flow through all those genres. And I think I've hit a pretty solid flow of being able to weave in and out, even in the time travel aspect, be able to have clearly action adventure, but then be able to do some horror inside there also. So it's and then clearly science fiction, because we're time traveling. So there's the time travel aspect. There's the monsters. There's the bad guys. There's an army of blood. There's all the things. And I think that inside the world, it's and you're absolutely right. You'd need to, if you plan on doing 50 issues, you can't start it. Say I have 10 issues figured out and I'll figure out the rest as I go along. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to know what the last page of issue 50 is going to be, or you might get lost. You can't just kind of dump stuff in and hope that it works out. Yeah.
So I've had conversations with people who build worlds, and they have a Bible to some degree. Not the Bible. I want to make that crystal clear. They have a Bible, which is the rule sets, which is an idea. I know I'm explaining because some people are going to get confused here. I know it. But obviously they have a Bible of, okay, this world operates in this fashion, and these characters are going to operate in this way. And if you punch this character in the face, they're going to respond in this fashion. Now, you might not understand why they're responding in that fashion, but if you have a character, if you punch him in the face, he's going to give you a cupcake, and the enemy punches him in the face, he better hand him a cupcake, and for whatever reason, that's just the way it goes. So, but what is that like too? Because you have to really know. And then when you're writing this and creating this, I mean, if you're in a situation, you got to figure out, do I break a rule? And is there a good reason to break a rule? Or do I have to rework the scene?
Yeah. That's really interesting point, because I for all 4 main characters of the Offspring, which started off, if you've read the first 12 issues, it started off as 3 main characters. And I knew that there was a 4th character going in. I knew that this 4th character was going to come in and muck up the works. So for me, it was really understanding, because all 4 of these characters come from a place of trauma. They come from a place of their home life, their backgrounds, and being abused. They had traumatic experiences that had them come and meet at this alternative school, where they eventually found out that they had this connection. So having them all come from a place of trauma, the fun part was to be able to figure out how each 4 of these characters reacted to that trauma, and how that's going to justify the character's actions as it moves forward in the story. So one character, Will, who is the bigger guy, he's the leader of the group, if you want to use that term. He's the one that seems the most well put together as the story starts. He's working at the alternative school. He's working with kids. He's going to school. He's working as a teacher's assistant. He seems to have it together. But as the story progresses, you start to see the cracks in his character. You start to see the cracks in his background to be able to handle some of these situations. While Sarah is all fire. She's the one that reacts with fist and fury if anything doesn't go exactly her way. While Vince is a character who isn't going to fight. He's going to try to joke his way out of it. He's going to make inappropriate jokes, make everybody uncomfortable, and they're just going to walk away from him because they're freaked out by it. So it's the way these characters react. And the 4th character that I just not just introduced, but introduced midway through season 2, she runs, and that's why we haven't seen her, because she's a runner. She will not deal with situations. She will not face them. She will run away. So that's why we haven't seen her up until the time where the other 3 main characters realize we're missing this 4th member of this group that has this connection to us, this universal, otherworldly connection that we can't quite explain yet. So we've got to go find her. So going to find her was another great opportunity to be able to show where this 4th character, Megan, is, why she's there, what she's doing there, and how the other 3 characters travel to get to her. So it really, like I said, it's another that road trip genre that I was able to do a road trip with the 3 characters, to be able to have them in different places other than just the alternative school, other than just standing in the woods fighting bad guys, So it was, so it's that kind of forethought in the characters and their motivations that is, I think, super important. They all have to have their own voice, their own reasoning, their own mechanics of why they do what they do. And I think all 4 of the main characters in The Offspring really have that.
No, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then I mean, to even go further into this too, I mean, obviously you're on issue 28 now, mm-hmm. and I mean, you're in the middle. I wouldn't say you're in the finale yet.
No, not yet.
40 is when you start really getting
wrapping it up,
yeah. and you start wrapping it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example. One Piece is on its final arc. It's starting to wrap itself up, and a bunch of stuff is starting to happen that it's crystal clear that this thing is wrapping itself up. Now it'll go on for another 10 years.
Sure.
But it's got another 200 chapters, 150, 200 chapters, a good, 3 or 4 years on the manga side, and the anime side's like another 10 easy. But the point I'm getting at is that there is a position where you are in the middle, And so what is this like too? Because obviously now you need to start introducing real consequences for actions.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids or young adults, depending on how you want to view them, because to some degree they still are somewhat children, but they're older than that. I mean, they're not 50 is what I'm going here.
Between 19 and 21. Between 19 and 21, that's where they
are. They're still relatively, they're adults, but they're adults who have some wisdom, but not a hell of a lot. Is a good way to put it.
I think you described every 19 through 21-year-old. Yeah.
But like, what is this like? Because obviously they are dealing with real consequences, and in issue 28, you have to start introducing real consequences where, and especially because they're dealing with enemy, and then what they do in the Civil War, then they go back further, then they go back further. I mean, their actions at some point have to hunt them.
Yeah.
And the decision they make either will benefit them or will hurt them as they're dealing with an enemy who is kind of building, I guess, an army or power against them. And they're building power against this enemy to come to some type of conflict. I mean, it's coming. I mean, I don't think that that's anything that I'm giving away, but what is that like? Because in issue 4, you don't need to introduce a consequence.
Yeah.
But now there has to be one, right? I mean, it's tricky when you start going down that path.
Well, here's how I handled that, and I think it really worked well, because part of the process for me is making these crazy ideas and these characters that they do, these things that these characters do, but still giving it still having a realistic expectation about how these people handle each other, and how these characters handle the outside world. So not having Megan, the 4th character that runs, there for the first big story arc, really gave me a chance to be able to play with how people come in and out of your life. Like there are some people that come in and you're best buddies for a month, and then, I'm moving, I gotta go, okay, bye, nice knowing you, and you never see them again, and there's some people that are there your entire life and everything in between that. So it really was for me a chance to be able to play with having these 3 main characters who are not friends to begin with. Will is trying his hardest to keep the other 2 from killing each other, and they don't really get along. But as they start to go through this process of being together, of realizing they have this connection, of trying to find Megan, who is in danger, they start to trust each other, which is hard for these characters whose lives are based on trauma. So getting them to a place in the first 25 issues to where these 3 main characters start to trust each other. One of the taglines of the book is, "Where is your safe place?" Because everybody needs one. And these characters who have based their life off this trauma of trying not to have more trauma in their lives, and it's not going very well for not having trauma. Sarah, who was probably one of the most angry characters in the book, they get through this road trip and they start to realize that they have each other's backs. And Sarah says right before they meet to where Megan's going to be, where they know Megan is going to be, Sarah says to Will and Vince, when we were going through therapy all those many years as kids in the alternative school, the therapist kept asking me to find my safe place. And she's like, I never understood what that meant, because there is no safe place. No place is safe in the world that she lives in. And she realizes that her safe place was there with Vince and Will. So then having these 3 characters who have grown together, who now feel like a family, and finding this 4th character, and the 4th character does not want to be there with them. It's throwing a wrench in what these other 3 characters have built. And it's that, for me, the part of the time travel aspect is going backwards instead of forwards. So there's some like analogies in there somewhere about how you're moving backwards instead of forwards, how this character keeps taking 1 step forward and then 4 steps back, and then 2 steps forward and reaching for this friendship, this teamwork aspect of the other 3 characters, and then just running again. So it's that moving forward and moving back That's I'm using the time travel as like an analogy to be able to show how this character handles closeness, which is not well.
I mean, it's interesting, and obviously, I mean, where I'm going with this is that you obviously have to start creating consequences once you get to issue 28. I mean, once you get to issue 15, there has to be something that happens.
Sure.
You know, and I'll use an example. I'll use a very physical example. Like a character needs to lose an arm. You know, because you need something that shifts what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can't, or if all of a sudden, Will makes a decision and inadvertently it powers up their enemy, so they have to go back further in time and further, and now it's kind of like you have to make another decision that changes something, or you go back 200 years and not 100 because you have to go save your friend who jumped into a portal or got pushed into another portal, for lack of a better word, and now how the hell do you get back from 200 years? And so there's a lot of stuff that could be in play here. So it's interesting because that's where I think people mess up in stories.
Sure.
Right now, especially in comics, is that at what point do you introduce a consequence that is a game changer that says, okay, we're going to go kill off a character that was monumental, and then we're not going to bring them back. Because I think that's a real issue. This is what manga and anime does very well, is that they'll kill off a character and that character's dead.
Yeah.
And that's a real consequence that shifts a whole concept. I mean, I'll look dropping Naruto, the third Hokage gets, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, guys. Sorry. It's been out for like 20 years. I'm sorry. Harry Potter's the same way. Dumbledore dies. I'm sorry. If you didn't know, you'd know now.
You know,
it's magical. But like, there's a real consequence once you kill off a character that shifts a book, a movie, whatever you want, whatever medium it is. And I think that's really important, especially when you're legitly at the halfway point.
Yeah, I think that for the characters of the Offspring, their consequence right now is there's a bigger arc that I don't want to give too much away, but their consequence of their actions right now is being totally lost. They, through their decisions that they've made, they've found themselves in this situation where they have no control. And that's what trauma is, feeling like you don't have, or part of what trauma is, feeling like you don't have any control over your life. So now they are spiraling through this time travel storyline, and the consequence is they don't have any control. And now it doesn't sound like a big grandiose consequence, right? But as I'm building up for the story, dominoes will start to fall. So without giving too much away, people when people ask me about my especially the Offspring, ask me about how I treat my characters. I beat them up pretty hard. They're it's not easy. I'm not saying let's go hang out. Let's go hang out in medieval England and let's go have some beer with the king and blah, blah, blah. They're in the midst of it. They're either on a sinking ship, or they're in the middle of a battle, or there's which again is all analogies for the trauma that they're dealing with, the spiral of having no control over what they're doing. So as I'm building up through this time travel storyline, it'll be pretty obvious how their decisions have made their lives harder and affected not just them, but time as a whole. I don't want to give up too much. I don't want to give away too much.
I forget what book it was. I read it a while ago where the guy killed his future self, which rewrote his future. It was a brilliant concept. So his future self was a dick. So he traveled to the future. He found out that his future self was a dick, and so he killed his future self so that he wouldn't become a dick in the future. It was brilliant. The whole concept of it was brilliant. It was amazing. It was a brilliant book in so many ways. I forget the name of the book. I read it maybe like 2-3 years ago, and I'm like, man, this is brilliant in so many ways. But I can relate. But no, that's interesting. But I don't want to push too hard into that. I do want to talk about something else though regarding this, because again, speaking about doing 50 issues, I mean, there is a complicated money component to this. Because when you're doing 28 issues, at a certain point, conservatively, you pumped anywhere from 20,000 to 35,000 into your book. And I'm not saying you put 35,000 right into your book every single time you did it on 28 issues. I am saying though that you had to pump money in to print it, you had to sell it. Obviously, your time writing it and drawing it is worth something if you were paying yourself, and then you recycle some of the sale money into that. And so, because now you have a business, and now you're not playing anymore with, oh, it's $6,000 to do a comic. When you pump $35,000 conservatively into your book, that's a lot of money, or more for that matter. I mean, I'm picking a number that I think is maybe generous or maybe around that. I don't know exactly. You don't have to answer the question, but the point remains the same, is that what is that like? Because that's also when you do a long series as an indie creator, once you hit issue 20, you now have a lot of money in your book.
You made a substantial investment. Yeah. It's for someone like me, who is essentially a one-man band, I've had some people come in and help me here and there. People that I've wanted to work with and said, hey, let's do this. And they usually jump on board and like, yeah, let's do this. It's going to be great. I've had a couple people come in and help me color who really liked what I was doing and said, what do you need? And I said, oh my gosh, if this 3-parter right here, if you could color it, because the guy who jumped in and said, I love what you're doing. What can I do to help? Was an amazing colorist. And then he said, yeah, great. Let's do it. Send me the pages and let's get it going. So, but for the most part, I'm a one-man band. I do everything myself. So it's really kind of a different model than somebody who is, say, a small press publisher who's trying to get 2 or 3 books printed, not even printed, but written, produced, color, penciled, inked, lettered, colored, lettered, then formatted, and then published. That's a lot of people to have to organize if you can't do it all by yourself, or if you don't want to do it all by yourself. And that's a lot of money and time and communication that really, I think, unfortunately, and there are people who have been successful at it, but it really does hinder the process of creating an independent book. You have to want it. You have to want it to be able to, and everybody in that group has to want it also. And if there's one person that doesn't want it as much as everybody else, it could fall apart. So it's really fortunate for me in the model that I use is that the really thing it only costs me is time to create the books. Now the printing of it is a different story, but I think that I found a way to be able to produce the books,
but
be able to print and sell.
Even still, though, you still have to print the book. You still have to sell the book. And again, you're still pumping money in. Yeah. Even if you're printing each issue costs you $500 and you have 28 issues or 30 issues, it's still a lot of money. I mean, it's not, you're no longer in, if you print one issue and it costs you $700 and you do that once a year, that's very different when you're doing 3 or 4 a year. And then you're doing 28 of them. Yeah. At once. Not at once, but now you've done this 28 times. And it's a quarterly book, or it's every other month, or it's 5 times a year. I mean, that's $2,500. That is not an insignificant amount of money.
No, and I think I found a way to be able to print these books in a common sense way, to be able to get them in a limited number, I'll admit, a limited number of comic book shops, and also be able to have books for comic conventions where I still get to feed my family. Does that make sense? I'm not going to be able to retire off of the sales of the book, but I think I found a happy medium for the size that I am right now to be able to produce and print and sell.
The reason why.
And have that cycle continue and build as I go.
Because the reason why I bring this up is that I'm in the middle of ending a debt cycle. In the next 60 days, I would have essentially ended a debt cycle using first dollar in, first dollar out plus profits to tinker down debt and then get my business into a healthier position. And so what I'm figuring out is that I'm not going to be able to retire on my side hustle business, but it will give me extra income to have fun or potentially put that money to work in something else that will add or just accelerate my retirement along with my regular shoot job, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But I think this is where this gets interesting, is that anybody who's in indie comics or producing a comic, you need to understand your business. And I think this is where this gets really, really tricky, because I know plenty of creators are doing like 20,000. I'm like, how much money you got? Like, I'm broke and I'm under. And I'm like, how are you under? And then I look at somebody who did 4,000. He's like, dude, I had a $500 surplus. Like, and I'm like, how is this possible? And I think that there's a disconnect with understanding your business, understanding your numbers, understanding what is possible, and also understanding, I guess, good business practices, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And also, maybe you don't want to do 50 issues of a book. Maybe you should stop at 12 and see where you're at with that. And that's not saying don't have a 50 issue arc, but it does get complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no business whiz. All I say is that I found a way that it works for me. I found a way to be able to produce these books and print them out in the way that I need them to be able to continue selling them and continue to grow readership and be able to continue to have fun and not freak out about being able to have 1 million copies of each issue. So somebody might see my model and feel like there's a better way to do it. But everybody's different and everybody's situation is different. So I found a way that it's worked for me.
Let me ask this, because do you also feel, because if you have a relatively self-sustaining business, which is what I'm getting to in my position, you know, it's healthy enough, but it's going to get healthier, in which I want it to be self-sustaining, with maybe every once in a while, if you want to do an expansion, you have to inject cash. But that's usually how expansions happen anyway in business. If you don't believe me, you know, ask why companies have seed rounds. But anyway, that's not the point here. But I think it's really interesting, because we look at Kickstarter, and I don't know what the point of making a comic is. And this is a really complicated question. If you want to make a book, is it a business, or is it that you want to live the dream? Because if you want to live the dream, then the only thing that should matter is I want to break even. That's the only number. Your break even number is the only number that matters. If you want to make a business out of it, or have a self-sustaining project with enough to buy you a 6-pack at the end of it, then that you need to think more on a business line. And I think this is where there's been a massive disconnect in comics, because I don't know what people want. I run a business where I'm selling comics and cards. I'm trying to make money and get some cool items in the process, but I'm trying to turn a profit. Like, it's not about, if somebody has a weird card of Mike Tyson punching Evander Holyfield and that's going to sell for $10,000 and I could buy one for $4, I'm right there. Caitlin Clark, and I carry a lot of WNBA. It's really hot right now. I'm following that. And then if that cools down in 5 years, I'm going to move on to the next hottest thing. It's the same thing with baseball players. I follow certain baseball players. Ohtani's really, really hot right now. Aaron Judge is hot. Pete Alonso's hot. But all of a sudden, in 3-4 years from now, if those players aren't hot, but Ellie De La Cruz is really into it, and his cards are fetching good money, that's where I'm going to be.
Sure.
And so, like, I don't know how that disconnect even happened.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's motivations can be different. I think as a creator, my motivation was never, I'm going to make $1 billion. Because while there are the Jim Lees and Todd McFarlanes of the world, you know, that can charge whatever they want for whatever they're doing, and the Todd
$25,000, you could get a Jim Lee cover for you.
I mean,
$25K, guys.
Yeah. So, and somebody like Todd McFarlane, who is clearly a good businessman, or at least surrounds him with good businessmen to be able to make good choices with, and it has expanded his scope of what he's producing. I think that for someone like me who's an independent creator, and I always admit there are thousands of me. There are thousands of guys sitting in their rooms who are sitting in their living room or their den or their whatever it is, office space, saying this. I'm so proud of the story. It's the greatest story I think I've ever. It's the best, whatever. But for me, my motivation always has to be, it's a fun story that I want to tell, that I think I can be proud of, for my friends and family and fans to read. So, really, if you get into comics thinking, and I've had small publishers say, "Oh, we're going to be on track to make $1 million in the first year," and my answer is always, "Okay, great." And then it doesn't happen for whatever reason. I probably come up with 3 solid reasons why it doesn't happen. But the process is never about, for me anyway, was never about being a millionaire. It's about doing something that I love and having the opportunity to be able to do that thing. So, if for me in a capitalist society, while I'm not going to be able to retire anytime soon off of it, I'm doing fine. But the goal is not to create Jim Lee numbers. If it happens, great. The goal is to create something that I'm proud of.
This is the issue I have with everybody. It's not just I don't have an issue, but it's people aren't honest.
Sure.
So I'm honest. I run a business. My objective is to make money and get really cool items, because really cool items come across my path. And I'm like, oh, I'm keeping that for myself that I normally wouldn't be able to get.
Sure.
And then also I sell a lot of stuff too. And it's a weird situation because I get to build a cool collection, and because I have access to certain things and certain things at cheaper rates, which means I could buy more. And then I could also, but my objective is to make money. And I feel like in comics right now, somebody can't say, I just want to create comics and I want to make money doing it. Like, I feel like there's like a real issue where there's just a lack of honesty. Because people say, oh, I'm in it for the glory. I'm in it just to make comics. And I'm like, yeah, but you're
glory. Where's this glory that you're talking about? Where is it?
No,
glory is an interesting term to use.
My issue is that there's like a lack of intellectual honesty here. And so it's like, and it irks me because I have no problem. But like, that's how I feel right now. Maybe I'm jaded out of comics, but like, and maybe it's me, but like, if you want to create comics because you want people to read your book, you should just say it. Yeah. If you want to say, look, I want to make a living doing comics, you should just say that. And if you want to do both, you should just say both those things. But I feel like that nobody can say it. And I don't understand why. You can say, look, I just want a self-sustaining comic business. Or I want my book to pay for itself and then buy me a 6-pack. And that's what I don't get.
Sound great to me. I'm not concerned. I think that for me and the way that I was brought up and the way that I think about life, if money was my initial motivation, then I'm going in for the wrong reasons. That doesn't mean that it's bad to go in for money. We need money to buy things to eat and to live and to do all that stuff. But in the end, I think while we've talked about creators who have made it big, that's not a reasonable expectation for people to come into this business. If Marvel and DC were to knock on my door tomorrow, I'm available, by the way, at Marvel and DC. But if they were to knock on my door tomorrow, I would probably still keep my day job and do whatever they needed me to do in my off hours, because for a while, because that's just the smart thing to do, especially in this kind of, like you said, comic book environment, where it is a little volatile, for lack of a better term, I guess. Yeah. And it's one of those things that that people, like the thousands of people like me who just want to draw cool stuff and tell cool stories. It's one of the things that's probably the trickiest, because there are probably, like I said, millions of people, 100,000 people like me who are doing it better than I'm doing it, and still not getting noticed.
You have a good point, where I've spoken to people say, all I want to do is write for Marvel or DC. And my response is that 5 years ago, I wanted to be quote unquote corporate. I wanted to be at a Marvel movie premiere. And now, if Marvel said to me, you want to come see a Marvel movie premiere? I'm like, no, thank you. I have no desire to be an influencer for you, in which that I don't need to be there anymore. And I think a lot of people in comics have said, I don't want to be there. 5 years ago, I wanted to be there, but I don't need to be at Marvel or DC. I don't need to be invited to a movie premiere to know that I can hang with certain celebrities anytime I want to and certain voice actors. And it's not that hard. And I think a lot of stuff has changed. Where I think the cloud of it has actually left. And I'm not saying it's cool if you go see Thor: Love and Thunder. Actually, no, that was a rough movie. That was a rough one.
It had some good stuff.
It had some fun stuff in there. I'm just saying that it needed a second pass. It needed a second pass. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say on that one.
You know, things like that actually make me feel better about what I'm doing, because it makes me think of these people who are the top of their field, create something and put millions of dollars into this thing and write it and create it and sell it and get it out to theaters, and then everybody's like, meh. That makes me feel better because creating things is hard. Producing something is very difficult. So if it always kind of makes me smile a little bit and feel better, like, well, these guys are having trouble doing it. Why am I kicking why am I kicking myself in the butt if I can't think of the right phrase for this character to say in this scene? Like, everything's gonna be fine.
I do, and I've done almost 800 interviews. A good chunk of them aren't great, and people give me shit for some of my interviews, and I'm like, you gotta realize that if I'm doing 120 interviews a year, some of them are just not gonna work. It's just the way it is. And then some of them, I'm like, man, this was a bad interview. Dude, that was amazing. What the hell are you fucking talking about, dude? You killed it. I'm like, really, man? Like, I just didn't feel, no, dude, that was amazing. And what you were asking was awesome. And this is what we wanted to know. And you were doing this and that. And you were letting her speak. And like, I never seen anything like that. Or I've never seen anybody like her. Oh, man, that was great, dude. That was great. And I'm like, I just felt off about it. Like, it wasn't bad, but like, no, so it's weird, right? But creation is hard.
It is.
I agree.
And as creators, we're our own worst critics. We're while somebody would say, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing," I'm like, thank you, but I think, in your brain you're like, "Oh, thank you." You're like telling them thank you, but in your brain you're like, "I could have done better. I could have done better." And that's what creating is about. I try to, and I think I've said this to you before, because we've talked about similar ideas like this. There are, every time somebody says, I liked it, but I wish you did this. Okay, but I didn't do that, or whatever it was. I try to always remind myself that there are billions of people that love Star Wars for whatever reason, but there are also billions of people that hate Star Wars for whatever reason. Create the thing you want to create, and the people who gravitate towards it will gravitate towards it, and hopefully it's enough people to where you can have a thing.
I mean, people, comment on my tweets, say, "Oh, dude, I wish you asked this." I said, if I get another opportunity, it is definitely, because I said, look, I had like an hour with somebody, or I had an hour and a half, like, and we were just on this and going this way, but like, person has 200 voice roles. We weren't going to get to all of them. I'm sorry that we didn't get to like the one you wanted, everybody. But it's like, no, dude, it was great, and I loved seeing it, but like, man, I was curious about this thing and this thing. I'm like, yo, there's always around two. There's always around two.
Yeah.
But like, it's so weird, but creation is fucking hard. I agree.
Man, I agree. Yeah. That's why not everybody does it.
Oh my God. It's bad. Like, I don't want to create a comic book. I don't think I'd be good at it. I think it would be bad. I think it would be one of those things where it's just like, I don't have a good idea right now.
Yeah.
I actually, no, I have an idea, but it needs to be fleshed out.
Sure.
It needs to be really fleshed out and really developed. The concept is good. It's just a matter of, how do I want to play this thing out?
Yeah. Yeah, and as an art teacher, I have kids every year come to me and go, I don't know how to draw. And I'm an art teacher. I don't know how to draw, Mr. Whalen. I say, don't worry about it. That's my job to teach you how to draw. So don't freak out. And then we draw. It's the first week, and they draw something. They're crumpling it up, and they throw it. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. What? Why are you freaking out about a draw? You've been drawing for a week. I've been doing this for 50 years. You've been doing it for 50 minutes. Relax. We're here to learn. We're here to make mistakes. And that's the whole point of even the process of you be doing this for 100 years. You're still going to make mistakes, hopefully fewer mistakes after 100 years.
Oh, man.
But you're still going to make mistakes. So to freak out and to throw it in the trash is ridiculous, because you're never starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. And that's what it should be. Always that horrible drawing will get you to the next one. And then we'll get to the next one. And to keep that horrible drawing that you started off with, and then see the 50th drawing in the process and go, okay, yeah, this horrible drawing got me to this, which is not horrible, hopefully.
That's the story of my life. I got better as an interviewer when I started listening to myself and editing my work.
Sure. Yeah.
And oh, man, I'm in the middle of editing a rough interview right now. That was from like 3 years ago. And I'm like, it wasn't bad, but like it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, this is like 3-4 years ago. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot. But like, and also like there are interviews where I'm like, I just don't give a fuck today. And like the interview just flowed a certain way. And like, you just see me just like relax. And then also like I've had interviews where like the first 30 minutes, nothing worked. And then like minute 31, the thing took off like a rocket. So like it's trippy, man. Like, but I agree. Mm-hmm. I definitely agree that's a good way to put it, that you're not starting from scratch. I never heard that before. Mm-hmm. Starting from experience. And it could be.
I stole it from somewhere. I don't remember where I stole it from, but I stole it from somewhere.
It's good. It's good. It's because I never heard that before. It's actually really good. I'm still gonna stick with it. If you were to teach me art, which you tried, and it was not a good lesson.
It went okay. It went better than you think it did. It went better than you think it did. We should do another one. We should do another one this summer.
We learned something. We all learned about life that day, and then we learned that I am not an artiste. I will stick to interviewing, and you can stick to doing comics, and we'll be perfectly fine. I know my
just like riding a bike. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
You know what? I'm okay. I will stick in my lane. I will be perfectly fine just selling things on eBay that other people drew. I'm perfectly fine. I could sleep fine at night. You know, every once in a while I'll say, man, I really wish I could draw because it'd be fun. But you know, that slowly fades away. Here's another
thing I tell everybody can draw. It's just whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I mean, look at some of the artists, they're fine artists who have gone down in history as some of the greatest artists forever, and they don't really look like anything. Anybody can draw something on a picture, on a piece of paper. It doesn't mean it has to look like anything. So so I'm trying to fight this idea that when people say I can't draw, yeah, you can. It's just whether you like it or not and what you think it might look like. It doesn't have to look like anything. It doesn't have to look like anything.
My favorite thing in college was like I took an abstract art class and I just started throwing stuff on paper. It was great. It was like painting abstract. And basically I just took a bunch of shapes for every single project and I had a good time with it. It was great.
That's it.
It's a lot of fun. And I got a B+, but I needed to graduate. So I was perfectly happy with my B+. I said, I'll be thrilled to get a B+ in this class. I was like, yeah, that's what you're going to get. I'm like, awesome. It was great. And then he was super chilled. It was absolutely wonderful. That whole class. But I'm a slow painter. That's what I've learned.
That's okay. There's no rush.
Well, when you want to graduate, there is.
Well, I guess you have the scope of the course, right? But the timeline of the
course. And I didn't want to paint on my Friday nights because I really wanted to get hammered. So I had to figure out a way. I had to, paint faster.
You could have combined the two. I bet you would have gotten a B, A- instead of a B+.
People would have been like, why is every single paint of yours like a beer bottle, and like it would have been great.
Yeah, why not? So paint what you love, right?
It would have been, we would have saved all the paintings. Then after I become president, we would have put it in a book, and Budweiser would have been like, "This one's for you." It would have been great. It would have been their whole ad slogan right there.
What's that Homer Simpson quote? Alcohol, the gosh, oh man, I messed it up. I just had it in my brain. The cause and solution to all life's problems. That's what it is. The cause and solution to all life's problems.
That it might be true. It might be true.
It is. It is.
Depending on the mood and what's going on, it could help you or hurt you, and in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's great. I'm not even a Simpsons fan, but that's good. That's really good.
He might have stole it from somebody too. I don't know if he came up with that quote, if the writers came up with that quote.
Well, they did now. But yeah, no. I just think it's interesting because, again, I know where to stay in my lane, and I'm perfectly fine staying in my lane. Sure. I sleep fine at night. We all have strengths, and I am not an artiste.
Perfect.
But I might be able to steal some art. So there you go.
Sure.
I definitely wanted to steal a Jackson Pollock. I definitely wanted to steal that. I just wanted to hang it up in my bathroom. Yeah. I mean, there is some serious art stolen by some very, very, very powerful people. Mm-hmm. And, they tend to hang it up in interesting places.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not about the money. It's about having a one-of-one item.
Having the thing. Yep.
Because who doesn't want a Jackson Pollock in their house?
I love it.
So if you want in, we can move it around. Anyway, we meet under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Perfect.
Twice a month.
Perfect.
To go over the plans. But we meet on the left side, not on the right side on Wednesdays, because another group took the right side, which we're not happy about.
Are they going for Picassos?
What'd you say?
Are they going for Picassos?
No. We don't want to know. This way we can't incriminate
Don't ask,
them.
don't tell. Got it. Don't ask, don't tell. Got it.
So if we get busted, there's just a code among us all that we don't know what they're doing.
The less we know, the better.
If they want a Picasso, they could have it. We want a Pollock.
Yep.
And they know that we're going for the Pollocks. They're going for something else. We don't know. They don't know exactly what we're going for, but who knows? We might run into each other at certain points, and who knows? Maybe we'll both rob the same museum on the same night. But this way,
we can use them as a decoy.
Or we could save on gas for the van.
Love it.
So it becomes more economical.
Love it.
Because this is a business here. Any costs that we can cut. Because think about this, right? You have accounting costs, you have startup costs. So if we can save money on the getaway van,
gotta reduce that overhead.
This $50 can make the difference between a successful venture and a failure.
Yeah.
A profitable business lies on a $50 profit margin here. So I'm just saying, now you are fully incriminated into this. So congratulations.
I know nothing. I hear nothing. I see nothing.
Don't worry. We'll all get off. Don't worry about it. We'll all get off. I mean, really, they're gonna come. They're gonna convict me, a guy wearing a Michael Jordan shirt. I don't think so.
No, not.
23 and me this out completely. But anyway, I digress. Now that I've fully incriminated you and me and everybody else who's watching, you are all now going down with me and my crew. So congratulations, everybody. I'm sorry. Me and my super secret, that's not a secret anymore, art thieving crews that meet under the Brooklyn Bridge on Wednesdays on the left side. Membership is $5. You get a card, you get a T-shirt. It's great. It's fantastic. But if you show up on Thursdays, I don't know what goes on Thursdays. It's a whole different group. They might be stealing, I don't know, Banksy's for all I know. But anyway, I do want to back out of all this, and I do want to talk about the rest of what's going on in pop culture, because a lot of stuff's going on. Obviously, Jim Lee charges a lot of money for his art now to do something for you. But that, I think that's been beaten to death by a horse and then some.
Good for him.
I have a theory on it, and my
Yeah.
theory is not what everybody else thinks. I think he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I think he has an exuberant amount of price tag because he doesn't want to do it. There's things that I don't want to do. I don't want to edit somebody's podcast. If somebody wants me to edit their podcast because they like the way I cut up my micro content, I charge a lot of money for it.
Sure.
I charge $500 an episode because I do not want to do it. If somebody wants to pay me $500 an episode, I will do it, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense to me. Yeah.
But anyway, I am curious though, because a lot of stuff is interesting right now. Cons are coming back and they're in full swing. They've been in for a while. And I think a lot of stuff is going on in pop culture that is now sort of back in play. And I think a lot of more comics are being pushed out there. And I'm curious where you feel it's all going, because it's an interesting space we're in, because I feel like the big two, they're not dead, but their comic production is a 50-50 crapshoot, where half their titles are great and half their titles are bad. And then even then, like Amazing Spider-Man is finally good for the first time in like 8 years. And like Teen Titans has been solid, but then there's other stuff where Batman is average, Superman's average. I don't know anything about Wonder Woman because I haven't heard anything good or bad about it. And then even some of the other stuff like Iron Man and Avengers is okay at Marvel, but I know Amazing Spider-Man, they're killing it right now. They're killing it. It's like the best title Marvel's got. So I'm just curious where you feel comics are going, because, and even on the indie scene, there's a bunch of stuff like that too, where there's really good stuff and then there's really bad stuff.
Yeah. It's hard to judge these things because, what I think, maybe didn't work well, somebody else loved it. I'll give you an example. Madam Web, my wife and I watched it a couple of days back, and she loved it. She was like, I would watch that again. And I, being a comic book fan, there were aspects that I thought were pretty laughable. There were good parts also, but it wasn't something that I would dig deeper into.
Did you see Aquaman 2?
Which one?
Aquaman 2.
I did see Aquaman 2.
That's how it was for me. That's how it was for me.
To remember anything about it, so that maybe tells you where I was
in there. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah, it was fine. It had some stuff. It had some fun stuff, like always. Like, and those kind of things. I think that too many times whoever's producing it doesn't take it seriously. Like they don't. It's like the Batman and Robin effect, where they're like, let's just throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and hope that it works, or hope that enough kids will tell their parents to buy them a ticket. But what they don't understand is that it's us buying the tickets. We want to go see these characters that we grew up with also, and we want the story to make sense. I'm very hopeful for the new Superman that I've seen some pics for. And I'm not going to, bash it online or judge it for what it is now. They're just still pics of a movie being made. But I do think that they, except for the Christopher Reeve Superman, they haven't really gotten Superman right. I've enjoyed the movies. They've got good stuff in them. But I think that with something like Superman, they try to go dark and gritty because they think that's what people want, but Superman isn't dark and gritty. Superman is a beacon of hope. So his story should reflect that in him.
I mean, let me ask this. Did you see Smallville?
Yeah.
I thought Smallville was brilliant.
I thought I had, great for a series that ran for 6 years?
I think it ran for more.
Maybe even more than that. Yes, I think they and getting running for that long and being able to kind of hold it together for what the original concept was, I think was really impressive. And to be able to introduce some of those other characters in there in a way that didn't destroy what those characters would become, or didn't or didn't negate what those characters would become later.
mean,
Was really fun, and I think Smallville is great. Lois and Superman, or Superman and Lois, I think does a good job of holding the mythos together and showing what Superman can be. It's
I think
he's
last
a tricky
one
character.
was good. That was good for 2 seasons.
Krypton, I watched the first season. I don't think I saw the second season.
It was pretty good. I enjoyed that. Supergirl was great.
Supergirl, I enjoyed. I think by the end, I realized that I was not the demographic because I'm just an old man now.
I'll explain though. So I do a lot of social media. So this is how I watch a lot of these shows, is that I'm doing social media or I'm uploading YouTube videos, and I'll upload 20 of them because I'll build 300 YouTube videos, right? Whether it's shorts, content, wherever you got to upload to TikTok, you got to schedule it out. So in 2 hours, I could upload like 15 to 20 of them. So I'll watch 2 episodes of a show, and I'm looking for a show that's got 100, 120 episodes, because then all of a sudden it becomes less painful to go do a meaningless task. Sure. And so that's how I've watched like Supergirl. That's how I've watched Smallville. That's how I've watched The Flash. Mm-hmm. It's that because all this stuff was on Netflix when I was doing it. And so I'm just sitting doing that, and it was so much easier.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, and those binge watching, I think, helps it to really solidify the story that they're telling. So sometimes you get it, a week later or a month later or whatever. You're like, what happened? Why are they doing this? What happened with that character? The binge watching does help in those, especially if you're reviewing it, does help in those situations to be able to see it as one big chunk. So that's definitely good advice for somebody who wants to really deep dive into the characters and into the storylines to be able to see it that way. Sure.
Because I mean, I was just uploading stuff on YouTube, and I could just sit and do something else, and I could just sit and stare at my screen, or I could at least have it in the background, and I wasn't watching it too seriously, but it was easy enough for me to watch it that way. But it was fodder versus anything else. It's like Chicago PD. Chicago PD, it's easy to understand what the hell's going on, and if you miss something, there's nothing major in that show that I could potentially miss. And so it just makes time go faster. But I'm curious how you feel about the amount of comics that are coming out, because my understanding is that we're in a weird time where comics have slowed down production. And I got into a debate with somebody, and I'm curious how you feel, where he said, oh, the issue is creativity. And my response to him was, I think the issue is economics. Sure. Because I think people are funding less and less on Kickstarter, meaning that money's tighter. The economy isn't great. Money 2-3 years ago was cheaper in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And now people are back going to work. People are needing to put gas in their car. Inflation is coming down a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
And then also, when you're taking the train or you're putting an extra, if you weren't putting an extra 2,500 miles on your car, that means that your radiator belt in your car or your transmission lasted longer. And now it's getting worn out a little bit faster, which means that you have maintenance costs because your job wants you back 2 more days now, and you're on a hybrid schedule versus not showing up to your job at all and working from home. And so I think that's also an issue as well. And I think people are just waiting to see, hey, when is this going to subside? I think printing costs are more expensive. And I think people also are used to funding in a week, now they're funding in week 2, which means they're going to make less money. And so now the issue is that the business model is more challenged. So if you were doing 15,000, you might now only do 13,000 on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Really hurts, especially when printing goes up by 4 cents a book.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, a lot of these aspects, I've never done a Kickstarter, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do one, or haven't kind of tried to build up to one. But right now, it's not something that I'm that concerned about. And people would say that that's mistaken. I'm leaving money on the table. Okay. Okay. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But I think one of the problems in this arena is that it's a lot of the same people talking to a lot of the same people, right? It's just kind of like a circle of talking to the same group of people over and over and over and over again. It's not that you can't find more people that like the thing and bring them in, or have, try to expand your reach to people who maybe didn't think they would enjoy this thing. But I think that for something like this, it's difficult because you have creators backing creators, while you do have people who are just comic book fans backing creators also. It's not a sustainable model to continue to ask for money for a thing that isn't produced yet. That's one of the reasons why I don't really do it, because my model is I've made the thing. It's made. If you want to buy it, and then you've got the thing. You don't need to give me money to make the thing. It's already done. I've done it. And I think that's a great point.
So I'm waiting on projects that are over a year now. And then somebody says, oh, we're ahead of schedule and I just got their book. But I'm like, why did it take you 18 months to get me your product?
Yeah.
Like, I gave you $120 18 months ago.
Yeah.
In case you haven't realized, that $120 18 months ago at a 4% interest rate, which is my Apple Goldman Sachs account, 4.25%, it's a good amount of money. It's a good amount of money if that was just sitting in my bank account.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not that's like another like $30, give or take. So the cost of that person's book is not $120 for me. It's $150 because you didn't get it to me within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's my issue now on Kickstarter. And then people have screwed me out of books. And so I'm becoming very disenfranchised.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm the only one.
Yeah, I think that's happened to a lot of people, and I think that comes back to what we were talking about earlier, to where if it's a group of people or one person who has the idea, and then they need a writer, and they need a artist, and they need an inker, and they need a letterer, and they need a colorist, and they need all these people to come in and do the thing. That's very difficult to, especially when you're not making a lot of money off of it. You're, and a lot of it's back end deals. That the letterer's hoping to get their $25 a page or whatever it is. Eventually, that their life takes precedence. So somebody who is trying to corral together a team of 6 or 7 people to be able to make this one thing. Like I said, it's difficult to be able to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody is going to do that thing. Nobody's going to love your thing, my thing, as much as I love my thing. You know what I mean? My hope is that people like what I'm doing enough to be able to buy it and read it, ask me about it, maybe share some stuff on the social media.
Also, let me ask this, because how much is an issue of The Offspring? How much is issue 28?
So print $7.99, digital $2.99.
So you go on Kickstarter, people are charging $20 for a variant. Yeah. I've seen issues on Kickstarter where people are charging $15 for cover A.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
money.
Yeah, and there are people who are telling me that I'm not charging enough, but I'm not going to charge $10 for one issue, even if it is full color. $10 is a lot of money for a lot of people. So
I'll be honest with you. Yeah. You theoretically you are 25% higher than Marvel and DC, but the reason why you have to be is you're printing in much lower quantity.
Yeah. I'm a guy sitting in a room.
I don't know how you can get much cheaper than was it $7.99? You said
$7.99. Yeah.
So $8 roughly. Just it's easier just to use whole numbers. But the point is that a Marvel book is sometimes $4 or $5. You're $8. It's not it's a significant jump on percentage, but it's not a significant jump as far as cost. But if you were $20 or $10 and Marvel has a book for $5, I mean, this is the issue, right? Is that
they're going to go with something that they know that they're going to get. They're going to get the characters that they know for $5 instead of trying something, a 24-page of an indie comic for $20. It just, to me, it just doesn't. While in the short term, I might make a little bit more money at the end of the year. in the long term, they're not going to come back as much because they're not going to spend that much money on an independent creator.
I've said this before, where theoretically, so on YouTube, my theory applies on YouTube, but it potentially could apply with comics. Is that the more content I have, the more views I get, and my subscriber. And what I figured out is that the path to monetization and YouTube ads for me is content based. Because so at 1,500 videos, I have 25,000 views right now, which is more than what I did all of last year in 6 months. And so obviously some of my content is carrying over every single year and generating new viewership and finding new audiences. And then new content is also finding it. So as a comic creator, you should want to figure out how to create as much content. Because theoretically, if you have 300 issues, you are going to statistically find your audience. Now you have to deliver the 300 issues, and that's the problem. But I've also made the argument that I think that we're in an ad-based economy now. So I tried charging for my show. That was a horrible idea within reason. So if somebody wants to be on my show every other week and they want to buy that ad spot, that's a different discussion, because what you're really buying is you're buying an infomercial. That's a different component completely. But I charge for live reads. But interviews are free, but I'm also looking at what I charge for, because the next generation, what they want is they want to click a button like YouTube on their iPhone or iPad, and they want to watch them for free, and they want ads on it. So that's where comics are. If you want to make a lot of money, what needs to happen is that Global Comics needs to basically have an ad model where they give you a digital comic, it's free, and every 3 pages there's an ad, and that ad for that creator is a split between that creator and Global Comics. And if that book does 90,000 viewership, that ad rate for that book on that book is going to be more expensive. And so there you go. And so now this is how this is going to go down. Now, whether that's going to happen a year from now or 10 years from now, that is the future of comics on a very digital level. And then the physical level of it is that ads are relevant physically, but they're not the key. Digital ads are going to dictate real revenue, and whoever can figure it out and on whatever platform, and that's where the real money is in comics.
That makes sense to me. You've convinced me.
It's free with ads, because no kid, in which that my friends have a sister who's 10 years younger than us. My friends, I'm 31, she's 21. So she is in a very different space where it's completely digital, where she wants her content free with a lot of ads. I personally, I don't mind spending money to have no ads on my content. Within reason. Like my Netflix is like $15 and it has no ads on it, and I'm thrilled. But I would rather have Peacock for free with a bunch of ads on it.
Sure. Yeah, I think it depends on what you want to consume and how much you want to pay for that thing. So if you are really into Disney movies or whatever, you're going to get Disney ad free because you don't want to deal with all that stuff. But if you just have Netflix just because you want to flip through every once in a while to watch a movie or a sitcom or whatever, then you don't care. In fact, the ads flipping through would give you a chance to get up and go to the bathroom. So it really is picking and choosing. Which is a good thing, I think, in the 21st century that we have that ability. So we'll see how it continues.
That's the future of comics, without a doubt. And I want a piece of it. I want a piece of it because it's going to be it will be billions of dollars.
Sure.
Is what whoever figures it out will be a billionaire.
Yeah.
And it's not Global Comics, because the key and the problem is that you need to drive a lot of traffic, because you have free materials with the back end of ads, and you make it. I think that's merit based, right? Is it merit based, or is it? I don't know what the word is. It basically, if your book does well, you make more money.
Yeah. I don't know. Quantity based.
Quantity based. So I mean, it's performance based. It's performance based. Is what it is.
Yeah.
And so what it'll do is that it'll change the way things work. And then if your book is shitty, it looks nice or it's got a sexy cover, but there's nothing in there. Somebody drops it in the middle, and then there's 4 ads that are missed. There you go. But also, if it's all digital and you can interchange the ads at any given point, and you could resell the ads because it's all a digital file on a back-end server. I mean, you have an infinite amount. And then if you really want to get crazy, you could curtail ads. And I mean, I'm not even in this space, and I understand it because, again, this gets me excited because whoever figures it out is going to be worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But I digress. But nobody wants to be on their show to talk about this, and that's okay. I'll go do it all by myself, everybody. And I will then go buy a WNBA team.
Done.
And I will book Caitlin Clark all day with Aja Wilson. Oh my God. I'll just freaking nitpick the whole freaking WNBA, start a whole new team and just make it like the all-star squad. Oh, it'll be sick. I'm going to get Sue Bird as the coach. It'll be great.
Sounds good. I'm in. I'd watch.
And then we'll get a really crazy comic book mascot. It'll be great.
Awesome. Love it.
It'll be great. It'll be absolutely great. It'll be like free comic book day at like whatever stadium I got. Oh, it'll be great.
Nice.
I can't wait. The WNBA team's not even that expensive. It's probably like $70 million right now.
Oh, let's get 2 teams.
What we should do is we should buy an NBA team and then a WNBA team, and then we should go get into the league expansion. Yeah. Oh, it'd be great. For $3 billion, I think we could pull it off just like that.
All right. I'll get my checkbook.
Yeah. Just 1.5 million, no problem, right?
Do it.
I digress. We covered a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. We're stealing art tomorrow. You're in, right?
Well, you shouldn't tell anybody.
No, see, I didn't say where we're stealing it from.
Sure,
we're just stealing art. Sure. I mean, the meeting. The meeting is tomorrow night anyway. It's the left side of the Brooklyn Bridge, everybody.
Yep, we'll figure it out.
The code word is Pollock.
Nice.
For this meeting. So if you come up and you go to the right side and you say Pollock, they might not let you in, and they might get throw paint on you or something. I don't know.
Kevin Pollock, the comedian.
What'd you say?
Kevin Pollock, the comedian.
I mean, Jackson Pollock. Right?
Well, Jackson, but that makes more sense. That makes more sense what I said. Okay.
I mean, every week we have a different code word. You can never be too safe.
Never be too safe.
Stealing art, it's serious business.
I love it.
One missed stroke and you're out. I mean, sometimes you have to primer the situation here.
Love it.
I'm running out of words here for this. I'm really running out of words. Yeah, it's terrible. But enough about that. I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're all criminals now together, so it's all right. But where could people find you, bother you, check out what you do, catch up on The Offspring, all that fun stuff? Yeah,
you can find links to everything I've ever created on our website, correcthandedcomics.com. You can find me on all the social medias, from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Just search Correct Handed Comics, or me, David Whalen, and that blue hand right there will pop right up, and it has insider stuff, and it has great videos and some great content that you won't get on the website. So preview pages and all that stuff. So you can find us on all the social medias, and correcthandedcomics.com. Don't get left out.
I like what you did there. That's good. And then I'm going to keep saying it. Obviously, you have to support people who are doing projects you want to see more of. So whether that is on Kickstarter, Crowdfunder, Fund My Comic, Fund My Indie, Zoop, Indiegogo, wherever it is, or people's websites, however they're selling you their books, you have to go support them if you would like to see those projects getting made. And if you're at a con and somebody's there, talk to somebody, see what they got. It's really helpful. And however you want to get your books, but you have to support what you want to get made. That applies to everything. It's not just comics. It's everything. And then as far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, also known as X. I am Pop Anime Comics on the Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on the Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, which I'm now releasing more back. Just had a fun TikTok that came out yesterday. Got another one that's coming out tomorrow. A lot of fun stuff in that regard. I am also Pop Anime Comics on the eBay. So please look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on eBay, Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And I carry a lot of cool stuff in my store. So I carry a lot of books like this in my store, which are cool. I have all 15 of these in hollow foil. I also have all 15 of these in hollow foil. There's only 15 of them. I have all of them. I bought out the print run. I also carry cards like this in my store, which are super cool. So a little John Cena. It's very cool. So if you're looking for that stuff, it's a little bit different than what people are looking for. I also carry stuff like this as well. So these are Angel Reese's first rookie card, Jungle Edition, which is limited to 25. I have 3 of those left in my store. And so that's something that I got going on. And then I carry some funky stuff like this as well. And I have one of these left, which is a base relic from Major League just played a game at Rickwood, which is one of the oldest stadiums in Major League Baseball surrounding the Negro Leagues, which is super cool, which is now being really pushed out. And Major League Baseball is recognizing a lot of statistics. So this is a used base from that game, and I have one of those left. And I have a Juju Watkins in my store as well, limited to 99 or less. So super cool. So again, I carry a lot of cool stuff in my store, and you never know what's coming in my store whenever it's coming in my store. And so if you're looking for some really cool stuff, you know, and there may be a 101 Angel Reese coming into my store soon enough as well. I haven't decided if I'm keeping it for myself, everybody, because it is a really cool card. It's one of those cards that people want. And there might be another really cool card from the Commanders coming into my store soon as well. But that's an expensive card. I haven't decided again if I'm keeping that one or selling it, because stuff like that doesn't always come around. So be on the lookout for it, because you might just find something that's really cool and it doesn't come up all that often. So that's everything that I got going on. And yeah. And oh yeah, I got one more thing. Haven't announced it yet, but I'm bringing this back. So I had this shirt idea for a while, and I'm bringing this one back soon. So be on the lookout for that shirt. And I have another shirt coming out as well soon, and in the next probably 2-3 weeks. So I got some fun stuff coming, guys. I got some fun stuff coming. So that's everything that I got going on, and everybody knows where to find me. But on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
I hope everybody has a great night. Read comic books, read indie comic books, correcthandacomics.com.
And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. That is a wrap.